Okay, so this is part 5, and now there's one very important thing that I need to mention about that last exchange where 𝐾𝐚𝐤𝐴𝐳, when I told 𝐾𝐚𝐤𝐴𝐳, I let him know very nonchalantly. As soon as I heard Darth calling 𝐾𝐚𝐤𝐴𝐳 those names, I contacted 𝐾𝐚𝐤𝐴𝐳 within minutes, and I asked him very nonchalantly, because I didn't want to let the cat out of the bag, and I didn't want to flavor his answer. So I didn't tell him about what I heard. But I asked him, had he had any, had he heard from Darth lately? And he told me no. And I said, so you haven't heard from him since your last conversation that you had the night before? And he said no. And then after he told me that, that's when I let him know about Darth calling him names. And when I told him that, he was completely surprised, completely shocked, because he had had two completely civil conversations with Darth. So this right here, I think, is a good example of, if we take a look at someone who you think is your friend, or who you think is on good terms with you, you have a 31-minute conversation with this person, perfectly civil, perfectly cordial. Then you have another conversation, only maybe 1.5 to 2 minutes. And then, by the way, at the last thing they said, the last thing 𝐾𝐚𝐤𝐴𝐳 said in that short conversation, he said, hey, Darth, I hope that we can get together to have a one-on-one with each other. And Darth said, okay. So they left on good terms. And then one night later, there he is, Darth is in the server, Atheist Helpline, calling 𝐾𝐚𝐤𝐴𝐳 names. Now, I am not trying to defend 𝐾𝐚𝐤𝐴𝐳, because there was name calling, but that was not until afterwards. Because there was a conversation that took place or a video actually that 𝐾𝐚𝐤𝐴𝐳 put out, where 𝐾𝐚𝐤𝐴𝐳 referred to Darth as a cockroach. But that happened after the name calling from Darth. So Darth was the instigator. I just want to be clear. Darth was the instigator of that name calling. So I cannot speculate. I don't want to speculate. But if I had not told 𝐾𝐚𝐤𝐴𝐳 about that incident, I don't think 𝐾𝐚𝐤𝐴𝐳 would have been aware of it. More likely than not, I don't think he would have been, because that is something that was in the Atheist Helpline. The video was posted to Supreme Leader Streams, which 𝐾𝐚𝐤𝐴𝐳, again, I can't speculate as to whether or not 𝐾𝐚𝐤𝐴𝐳 would have went to that channel to listen, but it is possible, let me put it that way, that if I did not mention that, 𝐾𝐚𝐤𝐴𝐳 might not even have been aware of what happened, and I think then they would have just went their own way, because they already had that 31-minute chat with each other, so they had an idea of how each other stood on certain things, so they might have just went on their own way, and the name calling, the subsequent name calling might never have been heard by 𝐾𝐚𝐤𝐴𝐳. All right, but the point is, what it all boils down to is that Darth was the instigator of all that. Okay, so the point I guess I'm trying to bring out is that when Darth had been speaking on July 14, that was the night he was speaking with Paul Ross, and that was the same night where he told Paul Ross and others in the server that his interaction with 𝐾𝐚𝐤𝐴𝐳 was impeccable. That was a lie, not only to Paul Ross, but to everyone else in the server, because no, Darth Dawkins, your behavior was not impeccable. He conveniently left out the fact that he had already called 𝐾𝐚𝐤𝐴𝐳 a moron and a nutbag. Now, when Darth mentioned about this name calling, that's where Paul Ross criticized 𝐾𝐚𝐫𝐿. And I don't blame him, because Paul Ross did not know what happened earlier. So Paul Ross was, being critical of 𝐾𝐚𝐫𝐿, and he had no idea what took place earlier about the name calling, and that Darth had, instigated all this. So again, I cannot blame Paul Ross, because, as I said, he was not privy to what took place, and also he did not frequent Discord that often, so he did not know what happened. I think that if Paul Ross had been privy to that and knew what took place, he probably might have said something else or reacted in a different way, but that's not what happened. Now, there is one thing I forgot to mention earlier. I mentioned about what happened in Jungle Jargon, where Darth convinced Jungle Jargon to kick me out. What happened there afterwards, if you go to that particular video on Jungle Jargon's channel, the name of the video is "Can Atheists Tell the Truth?" Of course not. If you look at the video, and if you notice the text area, if you look at the text area, all of my comments have been edited out, so that my comments were suppressed. Now, why is that important? Because in the text area, that's where Darth, the first thing out of Darth's mouth, when he saw that I was in the text area, in fact, this is the very first thing he told me ever. He called me a sniveling little weasel, and he accused me of lying. In the text area, I called Darth out on that. I said, "How, when, and where did I lie?" And Darth never replied, and to this day he never has replied. Now, what's also interesting about that, what they did not know, is that while I was sending these text messages, I had my own software running. So even though you can't see the messages because they've been edited out of the original video, I have a copy of all of my own text messages, which includes where I asked Darth, "How am I a liar?" I've got that on video. I've got those in my YouTube, so I can prove that. So, Darth Dawkins, again, you are a liar. Okay, now there's another important comment that I'd like to make. On the incident where I was in 𝐾𝐚𝐫𝐿's live stream, that was the night that Darth came into the live stream and he challenged me. What Darth did not know is that the night before that, I had sent 𝐾𝐚𝐫𝐿 a text message, an email, and I actually copied and pasted that email, and I pasted it into the comment section of the video the night before. So if you actually go to 𝐾𝐚𝐫𝐿's channel, and if you look at the video the night before, you can see my comments. But I told 𝐾𝐚𝐫, and I made it very clear to 𝐾𝐚𝐫, that if Darth was to come into the server, and we anticipated that he would. In fact, 𝐾𝐚𝐫 invited him into the server. So we were clear, we both anticipated that he was going to come in. But I made it clear to 𝐾𝐚𝐫 that if Darth was to come into the server, I did not want to speak with him. So, if you go to that video where Darth came in, you will see that that's not actually what took place. Because on one hand, you will see 𝐾𝐚𝐫 actually trying to encourage me or steer me in the direction of where I should take advantage of the opportunity to speak with Darth. And even one of Darth's, one of his friends in his server even said that to him. So I even have that clip, and I think I played it earlier. But so here I've got on one side of me, I've got 𝐾𝐚𝐫𝐿 trying to get me to have a conversation with Darth after I had clearly told him that I won't do that. I don't want to do that because that's not my objective. It's not my intent. I went into the server to speak with 𝐾𝐚𝐫, not to debate Darth. And Then on the other hand, I had Darth calling me names. Because when he left, he said, oh, this guy, I can see he's not wrapped too tightly. Oh yeah, this guy, he's a real mental case. Yeah, he needs help mentally. Yeah, he's got problems. So I had it coming from both ends. So that is a form of suppression in a way, because it was not brought out. It was not actually brought into view about my comments that I had made clear to Smoky Saint. Smoky Saint completely overlooked that and tried to steer the conversation in the way that he wanted it to go. All right, so I'm almost finished now. Have a couple more points. As far as Darth accusing me of being a fraud, I know there was at least one failed attempt that he made on how he accused me of being a fraud. He had told others in his server that the reason why I was a fraud was because I did not confront him in the chats. In other words, I did not engage with him, and because of that, I am a fraud. Guess what? I don't have any obligation to speak with Darth Dawkins. That's completely up to me, and that does not make me a fraud if I choose not to do that. Darth has said he is pro Second Amendment. Well, okay. What's fair for the goose is fair for the gander. I'm strong pro First Amendment. The First Amendment doesn't say anything about you must speak. It just gives you the right to speak. It says you have freedom to speak, but it doesn't say you have an obligation to speak. Okay, let's get that clear. Okay, now I'm going to close this off because I had mentioned earlier that I said I would come back to this point. This was one of the points where Darth, when he was speaking with Paul Ross, and he was talking about how Smoky Saint told him that he was not a Christian. Well, I already showed that was false, but I'm going to play a little clip here of something that Darth said, and I just wanted to bring out, as far as my interpretation of what Paul Ross said referring to this, I think Paul was trying to say that there was no way Smoky Saint could know whether or not Darth Dawkins was a Christian. Okay, so let me show this little clip. You want to talk about nuclear strength? Okay, here's a nuclear strength clip. This is going to close the video. And Paul or anyone, if you want to contact me, please do so. Okay, now, Darth Dawkins, if you are listening, I highly suggest that you do not try to speak with me about anything, because whatever you say, you're just going to come out of it looking worse than what you did before. It doesn't matter how you answer the question or what you say. You're going to go into it thinking you're a silverback, and you're going to come out looking like a spider monkey. Okay? Now, here's that clip.
To me about various things. He may have been brought up Christian. Okay, he may have, had nominal contact with Christianity. He's not a Christian. He's lying through his teeth.